This is a meeting of the Township Committee, July 1st, 2013. The notice requirements provided for in the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied. Notice of this meeting was properly given by transmission to the Asbury Park Press, the Star Ledger, the Independent, and the Two-Bird Times, and by posting at the Middletown Township Municipal Building, and filing with the Township Clerk on January 11, 2013. Committeeman Fiore.
Here.
Committeeman Sal.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Murray.
Here.
Committeeman Sedambrino.
Here. Mayor
Sharpman.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I'd like to ask for a moment of silence to honor the troops serving worldwide, defending our freedoms and constitutions and way of life. Thank you. Our first item on tonight's agenda is Resolution 13-80, resolution authorizing the 2013 operating budget amendment. We will not be having a public hearing tonight. Did you read anything? Okay.
So.
Committeeman Fiore?
Yes.
Committeeman Sal?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray?
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino?
Yes.
Mayor Sharpenberger?
Yes.
Motion carries to introduce this resolution to the public hearing to be held on July 2013. We have no votes on the operating budget for 2013 or the solid waste 2013 budget vote tonight. At this time, I'd like to ask the Township Committee to adopt a consent agenda, which would include resolutions 13-182 through 13-186.
Move for adoption.
Committeeman Fiore?
Yes.
Committeeman Sal?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray?
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino?
Yes.
Mayor Sharpenberger?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt consent agenda. We have resolution 13-181, resolution authorizing payment of bills for July 1st, 2013.
Second.
Committeeman Fiore?
Yes.
Committeeman Sal?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray?
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino?
Yes.
Mayor Sharpenberger?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolution 13-181. And now we have the Township Committee acting as the ABC issuing authority. We have resolution 13-187, a resolution authorizing renewal of plenary retail consumption license, Goldfish Grill LLC.
So moved. Second.
Committeeman Fiore?
Yes.
Committeeman Sal?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray?
Yes.
Committeeman Sedambrino?
Yes.
Mayor Sharpenberger?
Yes.
Motion carries to adopt resolution 13-187. Agenda items for July 15, 2013. We'll have a certificate of appreciation awarded to the employee of the month for May 2013. We'll have a presentation of proclamation from the General Assembly to Anthony Conifer, Township Administrator. We'll have approval of minutes for May 6, 2013 executive and workshop meeting, and May 20, 2013 executive session and regular meeting. We'll have introduction of an ordinance, 2013-3093, the introduction of ordinance amending recreation fee schedule for non-residents. Discussion tonight, we'll begin with renewal of county shared service for server rack space, the 2011 road reconstruction change order, the 2010 road reconstruction east change order, the 2012 road resurfacing west change order, the 2012 road reconstruction west change order, the Conifer ball fields change order.
Yeah, I just, this is open
Discussion.
So the Conifer ball field change order, that was due to, Tony, that's the Atlantic Highlands and Middletown agreement, and then this was for a water line, this is a water system.
There were two items that were mistakenly removed from the original contract, and we did end up putting them back into the project as alternates. However, they were removed twice, once by mistake from the contract by the initial phases of the proposal. This kind of eradicates that and makes the contract whole again. and puts that work back in the contract.
And were we self-engineering that one, or did we go out to bid on an engineer for that specific field with that?
It was engineered, it was designed by RBA Associates,
And that was back like in 2010 or so?
2010, yes.
This is exactly why sometimes it makes sense, it sounds nice on paper to go and, bid out all of your engineering projects, and then you see somebody without any institutional knowledge of the area, and it winds up costing you more money, so exactly something that I think we always should be cognizant of. Thanks.
Okay, we have the cancellation of community development mortgages, the Blaisdell major subdivision easement, administrative conference room EOC upgrade, person-to-person liquor license transfer for Chris's Deli has been postponed probably till August. Post-Sandy planning assistance grant application, New Jersey Department of Community Affairs.
Jason's going to tell you about that program. It was just recently announced by the state.
Yes, last Wednesday I attended a meeting at the DCA where there was a summary of a new grant program that was announced for communities that were impacted by Sandy. $5 million have been allocated from the disaster recovery allocation through CDBG for planning initiatives, including redevelopment plans and investigations, neighborhood plans, recovery plans, master plan reexaminations, and they're available only to municipalities that hit certain thresholds for losses. We hit those thresholds, so one of the requirements for applying for the grant is to submit a strategic recovery planning report and a resolution associated with that. So we have a form resolution that has been supplied by the state. I'd like the committee to consider adopting that at the regular meeting on the 15th. That would get us in queue for securing grant resources for myriad types of planning initiatives to help base or recover. I'd also like to get some guidance with the committee's approval from the DCA regarding reimbursement for some staff time and efforts for that. We've been told so far that that is not reimbursable, but I'd like to get some clarification from the state on that.
So, Jason, this is just for planning, not for any sort of physical?
Not for physical improvements, not this particular grant program. The state is rolling out a series of grant programs available for homeowners. That's already been announced. For homeowners, the resettlement grants available to homeowners have been announced. The rebuild grants for homeowners have been announced, but this is for long-term planning. And it's really the first step. I expect over the next month, there'll be more programs made available through the disaster recovery allocation. That entire allocation to the state of New Jersey is $1.8 billion. So $5 million for long-term planning is really just a fraction of that, but I want to make sure we get what we deserve.
So that money would cover what then? Consultants? You would have to use outside consultants?
At the moment, that's the direction that we've gotten, and you'd be required to use outside consultants. And I'm concerned not about using outside consultants, but relying entirely on outside consultants for work, especially since at the staff level, we're dealing with residents and local issues on a daily basis, and we're very familiar with what's going on. And I think we could certainly, at the very least, steward a project through, and some of our time should be reimbursed.
It's not a match, is it?
No, there's no match.
Okay.
Some of this might also fall in line with some of the things the Economic Development Committee are talking about doing. There may be some opportunities for some areas that were in Sandy-affected parts of the town that could benefit from an economic development look, and possibly like redevelopment designation for some areas. You can utilize these funds to do the redevelopment studies that are needed.
See, that would be ideal, because that's really a hole that, we would have to fill ordinarily if we wanted to do that.
That's definitely one of the aspects that you can use this grant for.
Great.
Perfect candidate would be the Port Belford as an example.
Yeah.
Advancing that to the stage of a redevelopment investigation, which has been a long-standing goal.
And what's the deliverable? You just have to give them a report or?
It would be an investigation and a plan. Those are two of the items that would be covered by the grant. Those would be two of the deliverables. We could do that on a neighborhood basis if the committee wanted to.
Great. Thanks, Jason.
We have the Conifer Recreation Fields County Grant Closeout.
You know, back to Conifer here. The Conifer ball fields were partially funded through a grant from Monmouth County Parks. And as we're looking to close out the project, the governing body has to issue a resolution authorizing or finalizing the closeout of the project. So we're going to present that to you next meeting.
Okay, for purchasing, we have the mobile trailer mounted generator light towers. And we have affordable housing fees.
You want to talk about this, Jason?
Yeah, I can,
Okay.
I'll provide some brief background. Through 2010, the Township Planning Department administered all affordable housing responsibilities, including rental units, affordable units that are for sale, resales. It's a very involved process that's very labor intensive and requires quite a bit of staff time. So when there were some cutbacks in 2010 and 11, we farmed out that responsibility to an affordable housing consultant. And for the past 2 years or so, that duty had been handled by a consultant. We had some false starts with getting it done right. It's a very involved process. The rules that you have to follow are very, they're sort of like a labyrinth. So in 2013, no consultants bid on the project, so planning staff has once again resumed that responsibility of dealing with all the marketing, income qualification, maintaining lists, things like that. Right now, the fee that we charge for that is $100 for the entire process for qualifying a household to purchase or sell or resell a unit. There's no fee for a rental unit, and I would think at this point it makes sense to adjust our fee schedule so that we have fees that are more in alignment with the kind of resources we expend for this.
Now, do we set that, or does the state give you some sort of parameters?
There aren't parameters set by the state, but there are certainly benchmarks that we can look at through other municipalities and the kind of fees they assign. We also know the fees that were being assigned by our consultants, not to the township. It was passed through directly to the landlord or the property owner. So we know the kind of fees that were being charged, and so we know, frankly, what's reasonable. And I think we can mirror those fees.
Great, thanks.
We have the change order for Debmar Drive, traffic signal for Kings Highway and Church Street intersection.
Yeah. What's this take on its take on it?
Yeah, I don't have it with me, but I can talk about it. As far as the intersection of Kings Highway and Church, this is
A much needed intersection.
yes, it's been discussed for many, many years. And I think the last discussion was at the planning board meeting, probably 3-4 years ago at this point, if not longer. The county has come up with essentially 2 different scenarios at the intersection. And when discussed with the planning board last, the desire at that time was essentially to not cut into the slope of the intersection. There's one plan to cut into the slope on Church Street to widen that to provide a dedicated right-hand turn lane and then a dedicated left-hand turn lane. I believe the planning board the last time looked at it, and there was some signalization improvements, some striping improvements on Kings Highway. But as far as Church, to essentially leave it as is, but allow the traffic to make right-hand turns and left-hand turns without causing the long queue that you would see. I think the thinking at that time was, let's try that methodology. If it functions as expected, then leave it alone. If it doesn't seem to function as expected, well, let's revisit it. And if we have to physically widen the roadway cutting into the slope, then we could talk about that at a later date, is my recollection from the last discussion. So really, the county has approached me, and I forwarded the information to Tony a few weeks ago. They had provided some of the different layouts and have the plans. And
We basically want to know if we, our position is the same as it was. There were basically 3 alternatives. One was just striping. One was a signal and striping, and the other one is a signal, striping, and widening of Church Street.
But I thought, and I could remember being on the planning board, and you were the planner at the time, that's how far back this goes. I think it was 2007 when this was decided at the planning board. I thought the planning board's instruction, I remember pretty clearly, like a long time ago, was to have the signal.
Yeah.
So, okay, so there would be a
Yeah.
signal, it wasn't, it was option number
Option
2.
that's
It was
it.
option
Right,
2.
okay.
The signal was for 2 and 3,
Correct.
definitely, with
Okay, I wasn't-
striping. The difference between 2 and 3 was cutting into the slope and widening Church Street.
Essentially
2 is
creating
not
another
doing
lane
that.
on Church
Right,
Street.
which I think was.
We wanted to try without that first.
Right,
That was-
despite
that was the idea.
the person I remember that had the, I don't know if she still has, the property, and she was actually in favor of the signal, but no one wanted it.
So I believe at this stage, the county is actually moving forward with their design and asking for us to kind of revisit this one last time, provide them direction so they can move forward.
Is there any consideration of lowering the speed limit along Kings Highway? That's the real problem with that, because I do the speed limit, guys are in my rearview mirror.
Well, the other issue is, there's that is an issue, but I think that's 35 now, so that's what it's.
40.
Is
It
it
goes,
40?
yeah, both,
Yeah.
I
right?
don't know.
It's 40 for a mile.
The
and-
county section is 40.
Yeah.
Right. And then you have the other, our section is 35, their section,
Right.
100, 200 feet is 40. The other issue is because of the design of the road over there, people, as they're making the left from Kings Highway to Church Street, people go around them. So if you're
Right.
trying to make the left while they're making the left, if you make a left and someone comes on the side of the blind, that's why a signal is, no improvement without a signal is an improvement that's worth it for a safety perspective, because people make 2 lanes on Kings Highway to get around people, so.
And the Landmark Commission, I think, begrudgingly went along with the signal,
They did.
but with a certain design.
It was
So it's not gonna
to
look
be
like
black.
the Jetsons.
Black was the acceptable the color for the signal because of the historic history.
Is it gonna be fluted, or what they call it?
I still went back a few years, I don't
I
remember.
believe it was.
They got it.
I think that was the design that they were trying to get approved by the State Historic Preservation Office. I don't know if they finished that process yet.
I don't know about it.
No, but I know that's where they were, and it was a fluted black pole design.
Was that?
I don't know if ultimately that's what was approved.
Oh, that's only 1 lane, so that lane entailing a, okay. So they're not going to 2, but 1 lane under that. Okay. So it'll be for left-hand side.
And there was going to be striping on Kings Highway for the left-hand turn onto Church Street.
When they're looking to do that.
I don't have that answer, but it's a good sign if they ask the question, because that means they're looking to get on it,
Right.
sooner rather than later. So my take was that it's on the queue next to start the design.
I think Joe Torres cleaning out his closet, wants to bring all these old projects out.
So we encourage that.
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
We do have one additional discussion item for signs.
Yes, that was just something, there's been a lot of discussion recently in the community and in the newspaper, and I believe Committeeman Fiore's brought this up at a prior meeting regarding LED signs, and also something that we shouldn't forget in this discussion are also the signs that are not LED signs that change copy. I think we need to establish some parameters on these signs, whether it be size, the length of how long the messages are displayed, and also perhaps the brightness levels at different parts of the day. And I just think that's something that we need to get ahead of at this point. But again, not only not to forget the LED signs, also the signs, like I said, that you see on the turnpike. We were just talking about the
Oh, the billboard.
yeah, the billboards. I mean, they
Every
change
8
also
seconds.
every couple
8
seconds.
seconds.
8 seconds. So I think that's something that committee should discuss or maybe.
Yeah, we have some model ordinances for those sorts of signs, so we'll put together a draft ordinance with some standards.
Which is too
And,
distracting.
Well,
Yeah.
It's just.
it's not just distracting. I mean, distraction is one part of it that, I think from a safety issue is more going to pop up, but the intensity is one issue. I mean, I'm not for, and I said this on the record before, I'll say it again, I didn't propose this, and I know it was in the Star Ledger this weekend about the 8-second changes of, becoming more, these billboards and signs becoming more prevalent. But I'm not opposed to these signs. They're out there now. So churches have them, schools have them. We're a little bit behind the curve, in terms of policing that. But now businesses are starting to bring them up. And, I understand the purpose is you could change a message, but the amount of, to your point of distraction, the amount of time that some of these messages are being changed needs to have some consistency within the town. So, not changing every 8 seconds to cause somebody to try to look back because they thought they saw something is a safety issue in my opinion. the intensity and I think we can regulate that, because otherwise what's gonna happen in the next 5 years, you're gonna have little Las Vegas running through every neighborhood in your town, which you have in certain ones of these signs already that are just, intense. So I think we do need to get ahead of the curve. We'll look to some of those model ordinances. I think Livingston has one, and up in Bergen County.
How does it read now? I mean, can they,
Well, the
are
sign,
they limited to certain,
the ordinances are generally say you can't have signs that are distracting or could be confused with traffic signals, things like that. But, they were written at a time when these sorts of signs weren't as prominent. The thought of a business having an LED sign with changeable messages was so expensive at one time that it wasn't really an issue. Now, they're becoming very common. And one of the concerns I have is that it could be a year from now or 2 years from now, there's an explosion of them, like every business wants one. Every shopping center wants one, and they're all listing their sales and who's got a sale on this item and that item. And drivers are going to be distracted by multiple signs as they drive on the highway, not just one. And unless we get ahead of the curve and establish some minimum standards so that and it has to be done in conjunction with traffic safety regulations. You can't have too many things that are going to distract drivers' view. And so there are some industry standards now starting to be developed about the type of lighting that they use and the frequency with which the messages change and the colors change as well.
About 2 years ago, we did amend the zoning ordinance to regulate billboards and LED and changeable signs for billboards specifically. We didn't revisit the entire sign ordinance. So you can certainly do that and use some of the models that are out there. But we do have, I think, some level of control now that we didn't have a couple of years ago with regard to billboards.
Which is important, because they're the ones that you'll see on Route 35 changing every 14 seconds, or 8 seconds, 16 seconds.
And keep in mind, there's still, if you drive around, there's still a lot of billboards that are damaged from the hurricane that haven't been reestablished yet. Don't be surprised if they get tried to reestablish as those types of signs, since they're going to be redoing them anyway. So at least we have that sort of covered.
So if you can look into that.
Okay, Township committee comments?
Sally,
nothing today, Mayor? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll defer to my colleagues on the committee with regard to Saturday's event. The only other item that I'll bring up is with regard to our award-winning website. At my other job, one of my clients noted to me, one of my government clients noted to me that they had looked at the Middletown website and their county will now be modeling their new website after the Township of Middletown.
Serious form of flattery, right?
And that was an unsolicited comment by my client. It's one of the counties in the state of New Jersey, and I thought that was pretty good.
And that's what you told them you designed it, right?
No, I said it was all you.
All right.
That's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
Great.
So Fiore.
I also will defer my comments on the event to you, Mayor, but I have nothing this evening except to wish these great United States a happy 200 and let's see, 36, 637.
Oh, my goodness.
I'm more than 76, so.
Wow.
76.
No, where the Yankees are playing, I know it's not you rush.
No.
Deputy Mayor, you're up.
Going to shift gears a little, bring up something we haven't mentioned in a while. Talk about the app that we're developing. We're expecting to see something hopefully this week, which is very exciting. So that'll really put us on the edge in terms of transparency and just being able to get the information out to people of the town with as much ease as possible in this age of technology. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm also going to defer to you on the firehouse, which was a fantastic event. I'm so glad that things are moving on down there. And just one more thing I'd like to mention, the Middletown 350, our 350-year anniversary is coming up. And the community is really starting to ramp up. We're starting to get a lot of entries in to be included for events that will be kicking off on Middletown Day this year. That's it, thank you.
Okay. Just a couple of things. Because the Yankees are playing this week, I'm going to make it long. Another week with another ribbon cutting for Abby's Quilt, which is great to see all of these empty storefronts filling up. And I can't believe how popular quilting is. In fact, just when I was sitting in there, people coming in and out buying pieces of fabric. So it shows you how much I know about trends. But fantastic, and they're really very excited about it, and it's good to see a diversity of operations like that coming in here. As everybody mentioned, Port Monmouth Firehouse had their 90th anniversary this past weekend. It was a great event. Thankfully, the weather held out. And we presented them with a signed jersey from Rutgers football team. A couple of months ago, Rutgers had their annual, what do they call it?
Spring game.
The spring game, right. And it's sort of an intra-team game. And they had, every player had the name of a town who was hit by Sandy on their jersey. And they presented us with the Port Monmouth one. And Kyle Flood, who's the coach, signed it. And we had it mounted and we presented it to the Port Monmouth Firehouse. And they in turn presented us with plaques, which was really a thrill for us. And just to show you that it's not a one-way street with these folks, they were raising money for the victims in Oklahoma, and they were doing it happily and very aggressively, even though a lot of them are still struggling with their own problems here. So it really says a lot about the people of Port Monmouth and people in Middletown as a whole, that they're willing to set aside their own problems and help somebody else who was hit more recently. And last thing, just we had an article in the League of Municipality magazines about our #1 website, and I've been getting comments from people who've read it, who are like, hey, gee, can you tell me a little bit more about it? So it really is a pretty big deal being chosen as having the #1 website in the state. And a lot of folks do notice it, and it's really something to be very proud of, and let's hope we can keep that level of recognition going for a while. And as Committee Man Fiore said, everybody have a wonderful, happy 4th of July. This is one of my favorite holidays, I think, when you really think about what it means. So it's a great time, and hopefully we'll catch a break with this nasty weather we've been having. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, public comments?
Okay, and just a reminder, please keep your comments strictly to 5 minutes. Give your name and address before you speak, and this way we're going to get a chance to weigh in. All right, let's start the hearing. Seeing no, look at this. Okay. My hook is getting quicker each week.
Yankees are playing. My name's Don Watson, 1 Collinson Drive. I was wondering if Stephanie can expound a little bit about this new app that we're coming out with.
Well, I haven't seen it yet. They've been developing over the last couple of months. But it's going to be feeding from the website. And it should be, you'll be able to download it on any of your smartphones and probably your pads, iPads, tablets. It'll just be another way of pushing the information through to a handheld or a mobile device. So especially, if we ever have a horrible storm again, you'll be able to basically access the town website and get news and information pushed directly to your phone. Several municipalities have them.
Yeah. I was just curious because you mentioned it. And I was also wondering when we're going to get a new police station or upgrade the one we have. Because, from what people say, it's in pretty bad shape down there. It floods a lot. We've been getting lots of rain. There's mold growing down there. And we all know about mold from the storms that we've been having.
I know that when I was mayor, my 2 years, I know I've spoke to the administrator about that specific capital expenditure, and I think actually it expands upon the whole town hall complex.
Right.
We really don't even have room to store things here at this point. There's some boxes around somewhere here, but I agree with you. And I think,
the electrical system down there is something
we need to get everybody, in my view, we need to get everybody under the same roof. I think that would create efficiencies, and I think that's something that this committee in future capital years needs to really take a hard line look at. I thought it was going to wind up being the building at 114, but we got a good renter in there, so a good buyer for that property, so.
What's 114?
That was the Sloan Building.
Oh, up
I
at
thought
Red
that
Hill
was gonna
Road.
be a chance, I thought there was a chance there.
Right. At least we're reaping some revenue from that. That's a good thing. Also, Jason mentioned something about a section of town being hit by the storm. I thought all the sections of town were affected by Sandy. And Jason mentioned something about a community development block grant for planning. Shouldn't we include the whole town in that planning scenario?
Well, the first step in accessing grants would be a town-wide analysis of risk and hazard mitigation. I mentioned the Bay Shore because obviously the...
Yeah, they were mostly
Yeah,
impacted.
but it wouldn't be just for one particular area of the town. We would analyze risk and mitigation options town-wide.
Okay, cool. Thank you for your time.
Anybody else care to speak? Seeing no further members of the public come forward, we move to close the public portion.
Councilman Fury.
Yes.
Councilman Pastel.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Murray. Yes. Councilman Sedambrino.
Yes.
Mayor Sharkey.
Yes.
Motion carries to adjourn.